big banks and investment firms like BlackRock were using ESG as a way to push the entire Western economy towards left-wing values. And they would do that through these social credit scores. That's what ESG is. So instead of evaluating businesses based on, how good they are at providing goods and services, companies like BlackRock and other big asset managers and banks were using left-wing social credit scores to determine whether a company was good or bad. And then they were tying financial benefits to the companies that were going along with left-wing agenda. And this is one of the reasons why you saw these big corporations like Target and Bud Light and these other companies adopt these left-wing values. It was because there were financial strings attached to it. Well, Donald Trump has come in and states over the past few years have been working, Republicans at the state level have been trying to gut this entire infrastructure that's been built. And so far, the Trump administration has made lots of progress in this regard. They've started putting regulations into place that make it harder for financial institutions to use ESG as a way to evaluate companies. That's really important. I think there's more work that needs to be done there, but I think that's a really positive step forward. The Fair Access to Banking Act has been proposed in Congress, which would make it illegal for large banks to use ESG as a way to control customers and companies. There's been 19 different state laws that have been passed all across the country, the two best being in Tennessee and in Florida, to make it illegal for banks to use ESG as a way to try to push a left-wing agenda, or any agenda for that matter. And so tons of progress has been made. And I think that the WEF is in a lot of trouble.
In shambles right now. Yeah, for people, just as a reminder, ESG, environmental social governance. And so you can actually see this. We're talking about this as if this is some like dark underbelly of corporate America, but they're really open about it. I mean, I have friends that work for big accounting firms, these major corporations, and they're very open. They'll get an email about ESG to make sure that they attend this training to help keep up the ESG scores. And you can even read on websites of like hotel chains, for example. Here's what we're doing to make sure that we are environmentally conscious, that we are, socially progressive, and that we're helping with governance and championing democracy. And all of these, of course, are euphemisms for progressive causes like transing kids. I mean, that's just what it is. And they might be using some code words so that they're not saying that explicitly on their site, but that's what we're talking about. And the reason they're doing that, as you stated, is that companies, huge companies with trillions of dollars like BlackRock and Vanguard, they are shareholders in these companies like Target and like these other major corporations, so that these companies are more beholden to the values of BlackRock, an entity like that, than they are to you or me. And yet we've talked about before that even before Trump won, it did seem like some companies were at least ostensibly switching it up. For example, it seemed that even last June, while Biden was still president, that Pride Month wasn't as aggressive at Target. Some people even said that it was more focused on 4th of July than Pride Month, which is quite the switch for Target. And so it does seem like some of these companies and some of their Super Bowl ads even were trying to appeal to middle America. Tell me how much you think that reflects just kind of trying to save face and just putting up a facade of being pro-America and even kind of conservative coded, or how much you think it is actually an indicator of some disbanding of power at the WEF in Davos. I hope all of that made sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I would say prior to the Trump administration, prior to Donald Trump winning the election in November, I would have said that a lot of it was posturing with maybe they were trying to be a little bit more quiet about the sort of great reset transition to this ESG left-wing utopian world. But I think after Donald Trump won, I think a lot of people on the left, elites in particular, in these big institutions, realized that their agenda was on the ballot, very clearly on the ballot, and had been totally and completely rejected. That voters went out and elected a guy who had been subject to more attacks than any person who's ever run for office ever. We're talking about a guy who was impeached twice. He was convicted of numerous felonies. They did everything they accused him of insurrection and treason and all kinds of other crazy things. He was almost killed, he was shot in the head, and still was elected. And I think that a lot of people on the left, that was a wake-up call for a lot of these big corporations, the leaders of these companies, who I don't think were necessarily left-wing people per se, but were going in that direction. Some of them were, but I think a lot of them are going in that direction because that's where the money was going. They wanted to be in the good graces of government. They thought that this was the direction that the world was moving in the West, and they wanted to be a part of it because there's a lot of money tied up in it, and because they want to be in positions of power and influence.